Okay gents, welcome to the second educational blog post, the theme of which is recovery, the importance of and the best methods to facilitate training. Discussed in this presentation, we're going to look at a brief explanation of the energy systems and some of the byproducts related to these systems, including delayed onset muscle soreness. We're going to look at the purpose of the lymphatic system and also some rehabilitation techniques that will help aid recovery in and between sessions, such as ice and contrast bathing, foam rolling and different supplements we can look at. To start with, we'll look at the role of what's called adenosine triphosphate in exercise. Now this is a molecule that's very important to the whole creation of energy. A muscular contraction cannot occur without the molecule adenosine triphosphate being present. It is made up of an adenosine molecule and 3 phosphate molecules. When this is broken down, you are left with ADP, so adenosine diphosphate, 2 adenosine molecules, and phosphate also 1. So by breaking it down, you have 3 phosphate molecules. When you break that down, you are left with 2, and then the breakdown of the reaction is what causes the energy. To touch upon some more of the systems, now we understand one of the key molecules. This is present in all 3 systems, and we're just going to relate this back to training. The first system I want to discuss is called the ATP-CP system. This is where adenosine triphosphate is predominantly in play. The amount of energy you get from this reaction, or burning up ATP, is up to 10 seconds. This is very, very explosive energy, and is what's called the anaerobic threshold. This means without oxygen. The ATP molecule loses a phosphate, as just previously discussed, and by doing so you are given energy. The creatine phosphate aspect then replaces this, so it's an ongoing process, but it's very, very limited. It's only a short supply. So ATP is broken down to create ADP and energy. Creatine phosphate will then break up, and that phosphate molecule will then replace, turning ADP back into ATP. So I hope that's nice and clear. This, as I said, is good for about 10 seconds of explosive burst of energy. After this, your glycolytic system kicks in. This can provide up to 40 seconds of still reasonably quick burst energy and is still considered to be predominantly in the anaerobic threshold, so still without oxygen. Good examples of these can range from the 10 seconds of the ATP, being Usain Bolt running the 100-metre men's final. He would do this without taking a single breath. He'd hold his breath the entire way. This can range up to using the glycolytic system of 40 seconds, potentially for world-class top athletes running 400 metres. They would still do this without oxygen. In the glycolytic system, your body burns your glycogen stores from both the muscles and food eaten prior to the exercise. So this is a store. Again, it's only a limited supply, but it is a store of glycogen. However, a byproduct of this system is lactic acid. So we've all been training, we've all felt that slight burn in the muscles after a certain amount of time. That's lactic acid kicking in. This is what leads to muscular fatigue, and to neutralise this lactic acid, we require oxygen. Now this is where we come on to the third system, which is called the oxidative system. This is 40 seconds onwards of consistent energy. This is now an aerobic threshold. Apologies, I need to change that on the slides, but this is aerobic. That means oxygen is now present. Oxygen neutralises the lactic acid and prevents it from becoming something called pyruvic acid, which is very damaging to our muscles. The oxygen will also continue to replenish ATP through oxidising stored fat cells and the remaining glucose, but this is a very slow process. So oxidative system you would find more often in a couple of laps around the track, potentially all the way up to your marathons, your triathlons, so long endurance events. So again, that's a brief overview of the energy systems and some of the byproducts that are created as a result that can have an effect on our muscles when we train. So you might be thinking, when we're discussing recovery, why is this important to understand where our energy comes from? What does this have to do with recovery? Now, to understand different recovery techniques, we first need to have an understanding of why we feel stiff and sore after training, and this is predominantly due to lactic acid, which, as just discussed, is a byproduct of utilising the energy required to train. As a result of training, this lactic acid and other similar byproducts lead to the soreness and stiffness in our muscles, which can slow down and affect our training. This ache the next day is more commonly known as delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS for short. Now this is brought about by a multitude of factors, but again most commonly this is lactic acid, but it can also generally be just volume of training. So if you've done 4 or 5 sessions in a week as opposed to 1 or 2, you're definitely going to start to feel the effects on your muscles. Now the symptoms for DOMS can take up to 48 hours to present themselves. So sometimes if you train you feel okay the next day, but then when you really start to feel it sort of 2 days later, you're wondering why. This is the reason. So it can take up to 48 hours for symptoms to present themselves. Some of the most effective rehab methods to flush out the lactic acid and aid recovery is exercise, so actually continuing to exercise to flush this out your system, but also sports massage, foam rolling to clear the lactic acid into the lymph nodes. Also supplements such as magnesium can help with this, other things such as Nordic fish oil and vitamin D. Now I just touched there upon the lymph system, so I just want to explain its function with recovery. Now the lymphatic system is responsible for draining away any byproducts in your system or any waste products that shouldn't be there. So in the subject and the theme of what we're discussing, potentially lactic acid. Now through predominantly massage and foam rolling, you can facilitate this flushing effect of the excess lactic acid into the lymph nodes to clear it. This is what will help aid recovery. So as you can see from the diagram as well, across your body at multiple points, but predominantly around your joints. So from the bottom, starting on your knees and the popliteal region, up into your femoral area, the groin, and then further up into the rest of your joints, all the way through your body you have lymph nodes. So when we foam roll in the morning, if you stretch, also if you have treatment from a practitioner, what the purpose of this is trying to do is not only restore the muscle function, but if there's any waste products, any fluids in there such as lactic acid that shouldn't be, we're trying to flush it into one of these nodes as shown in the diagram. Okay, so moving on to some of the techniques for rehabilitation. The first one, we're all very familiar with it, but I just want to touch upon foam rolling. Now the purpose of it is designed to restore initial length to the fascia, which is a connective tissue that surrounds the muscles. And also, not only that, but also to restore initial length to the muscles themselves. It works by using your body weight to press down into the foam roller, so the similar effect to a sports massage or the practitioner forcing their hands to release the muscles. You're actually just flipping it on its head. You're using your body weight pushing down into the foam roller in order to re-lengthen the fascia and the muscle tissue. Again, as previously just discussed in the lymph section, this will also work to flush any excess lactic acid into the lymph nodes and to clear it out of the body, and this has been proven very successful. Lots of literature written around the effects of foam rolling. Also, so we touched upon sports massage, physio practitioners or chiropractors, which predominantly deal in joints but can still have the same effect. Having regular monthly treatments, being from one of these practitioners, will definitely help alleviate tension in muscles and the joints in order to restore them to fully functional working order, as well as removing any hazardous byproducts created by the exercise we're doing. This can also not just have a physical effect, but it can also help to de-stress. Some people find treatments very, very relaxing. It can also improve your mental well-being as well as your physical well-being. Okay, now a hot topic that I want to discuss with you is this concept of using ice for recovery, but also contrast bathing. Now, I just want to make very clear that the inflammatory process is very, very important to helping tissue recover post-exercise. Now, having said that, you might now be sitting there thinking, well, in that case, why are we trying to use ice or contrast bathing to eliminate any inflammation? Now, there's two approaches. There's a lot of contrast in literature and studies into the effects of ice and cryotherapy for recovery, but there's two general approaches to its application and the benefits of this. Now, the first aspect I want to discuss is it is at its most effective for athletes who train regularly in sports teams or regular fitness training such as Spartan training, which requires you to train with high frequency rates and consistently to a very high standard and level of performance. This is where, in particular, the inflammation is brought about more, generally just as a result of the volume of training, so not necessarily through injury, just possibly through result of the volume of training. And as a result of this, ice and contrast bathing will be very effective just to not necessarily eliminate every aspect of the inflammation, because we do need a little bit, as I said, for recovery, but it will just eliminate it enough so that we still have range of motion, and then we can still recover ready in time for our next session. The second area is in terms of injury. Now this, as I said at the start of this slide, is definitely where the inflammatory process is important to help that tissue recover. Through injury, inflammation is very important to help the recovery process. It protects the joints, but it also can help bring the right aspects, the right cells in to repair the damaged aspects. Here, ice can be used initially in the first 48 to 72 hours to facilitate regular movement and range of motion, but it shouldn't be over-prescribed, as again, we're not trying to eliminate the swelling completely. We're just trying to make sure that we have enough that we can still move and get round and to work every single day and everyday tasks, but it still needs to recover. So again, just to summarise, there's two approaches. One for when you train regularly or play sports regularly, just through volume of training, you need a little bit of inflammation and swelling to help recover from this. But the ice and the contrast bathing will just help get you from one session to the next to make sure it doesn't become too prevalent. In terms of injury, this is where we actually encourage the inflammation process. So the first sort of 48 to 72 hours, we're just trying to make sure that we take it down just enough so we can keep moving, but after that the inflammation is actually a good thing. This is where some of the conflicting studies are coming in terms of ice and contrast bathing. Now, to utilise this effectively, contrast bathing in particular has been proven very useful for taking out any inflammation. I would recommend in particular, if you have a look on Amazon, you can find a couple of gel packs. They're very, very useful and beneficial. I use them myself, but the main reason being, if you have a pair of them, is you can put one in the freezer for the ice aspect and one in the microwave, for example, just to warm it up, to give this contrast. So contrast bathing is utilising hot and cold therapy, alternating between the two. And for most of your regular sort of sports injuries, or just if you're trying to take some swelling down, if you put the cold on for 2 minutes, your cold pack for 2 minutes, take it off, put the hot one on for 2 minutes, excuse me, then you keep alternating between hot and cold, 2 minutes each for 20 minutes. That's been proven to be very, very effective. I hope that helps clear up ice and contrast bathing. Okay, we're going to move on to supplements. Now again, some of you might have heard of magnesium oil before. Now magnesium is a mineral that is found in the body and helps with recovery. The benefits of supplemented magnesium will help improve muscle function, maintain electrolyte balance, and also reduce fatigue, both in your general everyday feeling, but also muscular fatigue. You can find this in a spray form, but it's also very effective if you buy the bath salts. So again, two different forms. If you use the spray straight onto your skin, that's the most fastest absorbing, but the bath salts are also very good and can be quite a nice soak after a long hard training session. A couple of other supplements. Now, a vitamin D supplement and Nordic fish oil, these are just two examples that are very well reviewed and two very good products that a couple of the guys use themselves. These are both fantastic for helping with DOMS. So we've touched upon managing rehab around inflammation, but in terms of the muscles as well, not only will magnesium oil help, vitamin D and Nordic fish oil, very high quality Nordic fish oil, will be fantastic for helping recover from DOMS, just looking after that general muscle recovery post exercise. Okay, so the conclusion, so some points to take away from this, some points that I want you to consider. Recovery is just as important as training and nutrition. If you do not allow your body enough time to recover and take care of it, you will not be able to train at 100% functionality. Secondly, injuries affect not just ourselves, but also those around us. It's not much fun if you're injured and your kids or your family want to go out for a walk or do something, and you're the one who's sitting on the couch with your leg up because you can't move. So again, making sure that we look after ourselves, not just for us and our training, but for those around us. We don't want it impacting upon our ability to spend time with friends and family. And third and final, just invest in that time in having a treatment or taking the time to stretch at home whilst watching the TV for 5 minutes, foam rolling, maximising the impacts that supplements can have. All of this will work towards preventing injury and facilitate your ongoing continual training potential and a better quality of life that will enable you to hit your goals at Spartan. Thanks very much for listening, gents. Any questions, please drop me a message. Cheers.